Who is retrenching? Many argue that the 21st century will be the century of US retrenchment. Indeed, after having dominated the 20th century, today the US appears at least to be reconsidering its role in the world. First with Obama's pivot to Asia, then with Trump's America First. China's role, on the other hand, is still seen to be on the rise, with many arguing that hers is the 21st century. At the 2017 Belt and Road Forum, President Xi Jinping declared to delegations from more than 100 countries that the Chinese initiative to finance a massive infrastructure program across many countries in the world was the project of the century. Really? Back in 2017, when China announced another $1 trillion Belt and Road financing for the years to come, the country's trade surplus had already shrunk to just above 1% of gross domestic product, from the 10% it had reached in 2007. At that time, I asked myself the one simple question there was to ask. If China's trade surplus has vanished, how can it keep on financing all those ports and airports, railways and highways, tunnels and bridges in all the corners of the world? But there is more to ask. Did China really do a proper due diligence on the payback capacity of its clients? Countries such as, amongst others, Belarus, Cambodia and Venezuela. Whilst these things are not openly publicized by the parties involved, today there appear to be around 20 bilateral debt renegotiations ongoing between China and the recipient countries. And then, of course, what will happen to China's international image if and when it comes to the surface that not only the finances do not square, but also the labor and environmental impacts of its projects have not been duly considered? Not surprisingly, President Xi Jinping's project of the century's finances have now collapsed from their peak of $80 billion in 2017 to a meager $4 billion in 2019. At this pace, it will take much more than a century to reach the 1 trillion promised by China's president. In 2020 then, the official language also changed, with China now firmly prioritizing domestic over foreign development projects. But the Belt and Road troubles will not only raise questions about who is actually retrenching and perhaps who is still expanding on the global stage. Equally worrisome, the Belt and Road Initiative has also gone hand in hand with a doubling of China's total corporate debt as a share of its gross domestic product, from 100% in 2008 to 200% in 2019. Of course, China's financial system is closed. As such, the government can gradually tackle issues of over-indebtedness whilst preventing cash flows that could precipitate a currency devaluation. After all, China's capital markets are still very under-penetrated when it comes to international investors. Nonetheless, defaults of some cash-strapped state-owned enterprises have already occurred, something that would have been unimaginable not too long ago. Investors will be worried of a corporate and banking sector weakened by over-ambitious investment projects overseas. At a minimum, such concerns might further delay a more significant opening up of the country's financial markets, thereby putting potentially a brake on the current domestic equity rally.